Hello, Colin and Josh, our Harper Hack 2025 winners. How are y'all doing today?
Doing fantastic.
Doing great. How are you doing, Austin?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually really excited to do this podcast and just chat with y'all to just talk more about your project. Again, as one of the judges, again, a lot of us, it was a very hard decision, but we just overall, collectively, all of us just really genuinely enjoyed seeing what y'all built and talk about this throughout this podcast, ask y'all questions and just to better know what sort of went all behind this. But for a lot of individuals who don't know, can you all explain your project?
Sure.
Sure.
Josh, how about you start?
Okay. All right. Thanks, Colin. So yeah, our project is called MELL, and what it does is it's a community reporting app. So say you see a pothole or a spot or a street light somewhere in your city or in your community, and you want to get that fixed. In most communities, you would typically call what's called a 311 line. And what that is, it's like a phone line that you can call. Some bigger cities might have like a website that you can call or post an issue to and say, hey, I found this pothole or this broken street light or this downed tree. And they'll take a look at that and then they'll get somebody out to fix it for you. Something that we thought is, that process is a bit tedious. People might not know where to look for that form online, or people might not want to pick up their phone and make a call. So we thought, well, what if we could do this, but make the process a lot more efficient?
Mm-hmm.
And we did that using Harper Fabric and then using AI as well.
Yep.
So the idea is that you can take your phone out whenever you see this issue that you're going to report. So like you see a pothole, you can take your phone out, take a picture of that, and then that'll get sent to an LLM to analyze what's going on in the picture, categorize it into a specific type of issue category, and then send that off to your local government or community, what have you. And that takes out a lot of the friction of the process of like, okay, who do I call for this pothole? Who do I call for this down street light? Who do I call for this down tree? Because those might be completely different departments within your city government. So by utilizing AI to kind of handle that process for you of like figuring out who's supposed to handle this issue, the process becomes a lot more frictionless. So yeah, that's kind of the basic summary. Colin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so you did a great job describing that reporting process, right? You see an issue in your community, you can make a report with your phone, just snap a photo, get an AI summary. You can make that report instantly without having to type anything, right? And the other side of this is with the community managers, right? There's a community manager dashboard where they can see all of the issues, they can change the status. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary of what the app does.
Nice. Yeah. And so I'm really curious because what sort of drew you all to specifically want to build this out, right? Was it something that in your community, you're like, oh my gosh, growing up in the Midwest, growing up in Indiana, there's a lot of potholes. All right. It's because so something like this would be really great. Right. But what was sort of the drive behind building this application?
Yeah. When it comes to the brainstorming session and how we came up with this idea, the purpose, or I guess the starting point for why we created the app was, of course, for the Harper Hackathon. We wanted to make an entry. And so we looked at what the hackathon was looking for, and it said, okay, we would like to use AI. So the first place we went was, okay, how can we just build something with AI? And we found that wasn't a great place to start, because AI is a tool to solve problems. It's not a problem itself.
Yes.
And so we then looked at what can we build that can make real impact? And we figured the best way to create real impact for real people is to start with a small community. And so we figured, how can we improve our communities one issue at a time? And one thing led to another. We came up with this community reporting app, and that's what sprung up with MELL. And MELL, just for some context, is an acronym or portmanteau of, Josh came up with this. I can't take credit, but it kind of stands for My 311. So MELL. And one of my favorite parts of some apps that I've used is some of the apps that are really memorable. Think something like Duolingo. What's the first thing you think of with Duolingo? You see an owl, right? Yeah, there's the bird, the owl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get those notifications on my phone all the time. I'm like, I need to do my Spanish today.
Exactly. So the app has personality, right? And so
Yeah.
one of my goals for our project was to give the app some personality, some pizzazz, right? And so we were thinking of, can we create a mascot for this sort of community reporting app? And we came up with a meerkat. So we have MELL the meerkat. And the reason we chose a meerkat is because meerkats are very observant and they're always on the lookout for trouble, right? You'll see photos and videos of
Yep.
meerkats and
Oh
they're all
yeah.
like standing up, looking around. So that's kind of the ethos behind our app. We want it to be, you're on the lookout for trouble and we can help in any way we can. So I think that about sums up the initial ideation. And
Hmm.
then from there, earlier I mentioned how AI is a tool to solve other
Yeah.
problems, right?
Yep.
And so we figured, well, what are some pain points with solving community issues right now? Well,
Hmm.
one thing that Josh mentioned was making sure it goes off to the right people. Right?
Hmm.
You might not know what department this goes to or what exactly
Yeah.
type of issue it is.
Yep.
And so the
Hmm.
way we integrated AI into this was you would snap a photo of the issue and we would send that off to a language model, and it would come up with a brief summary, and it would select from a list of issue types. And in the real world, each issue type would be assigned to a different department. From the user's perspective, all you have to do is just snap snap a photo of the issue, and then
Yeah.
AI can handle the rest for you. And of
Okay.
course, and I'm sure others don't love it when AI does everything for you without you being able to control or manipulate it.
Yeah.
So it gives you that basis, which most of the time is enough. But
Hmm.
obviously, you have the opportunity to change what the AI says, recategorize, and make sure it's sent off to the right people.
That is absolutely amazing. And now I actually want to take like a bit of a step back here, and I actually like wanted y'all to discuss more about like what are y'all's backgrounds, right? This seems like, again, like when I like messed around with the app, I'm like, oh, this is, first off, it's amazing, right? It was really awesome to just play around with it and just test it out. I was like, wow, this like, I mean, it was given the time period too, like this is a lot to get done. I'm really curious to know, like, just wanting to know y'all's backgrounds, like engineers yourselves. Yeah, give us a little bit around like just who y'all are.
Yeah, I can jump in here. So
Hmm.
Colin and I both work for the same company, a
Hmm.
small company called Ecosystems. So we're both front end web developers. You could call us, I guess, full stack, I guess, but
Hmm.
we heavily focus on front end web development.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so for a little bit of additional context, I guess. So Colin worked at this company a good bit before me. He and I have known each other a long time. We actually met in the Ohio State marching band. So well
Nice.
before we were coworkers, we were very good friends.
Hey, all right.
So
I
there,
love it. I love it. Yes.
awesome. Yeah. There you go. Um, so yeah, so we knew each other for a good long while before we started working together.
Hmm.
Colin went to school for computer science and found his way into work in that field. I actually
Hmm.
started out as a mechanical engineer, but I've always had like kind of a side interest in writing code. So that was something I slowly developed after I graduated through a few other jobs. And eventually, Colin and I actually worked on a project together, building with Angular, and that was the
Hmm.
first kind of larger project I had worked on, with my personal end goal of being to get my first job in web development. So it worked out after that project. Tom was able to refer me to our current company,
Nice.
and we ended up working together, which is awesome. And it gives us
Yeah.
opportunities to work on things like MELL, where we
Hmm.
can build some really cool stuff together.
Yeah, that is awesome. Actually, just like a side note, like I actually have like my cello right here. I don't know if y'all can see it. I know my
Oh,
my
yeah.
mic is. I have like my cello right
That's
here. So,
awesome.
y'all said band or whatnot. I did a lot of orchestra since like sixth grade. So love playing cello, and it's just cool. It's just the music is wonderful, man. So that's, as I said,
Love it.
brings a lot of people together. So that's amazing to hear that y'all met actually at in a marching band.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're one
and
of us.
yeah, yes. But yeah, and then what about you, Colin? Like, tell us a little bit about your yourself, man. Tell us about your background and everything.
Sure. Yeah, as Josh mentioned, the two of us met in the Ohio State Marching Band,
Hmm.
and I, along with Josh, and probably you as well, Austin, we are lifelong musicians.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
that's what brought us together. And yeah, I've always had a fascination with
Hmm.
technology from a young age. I remember my dad sort of bequeathed his giant, Windows 2000, Windows XP tower to me and my
Mhm.
brother. And we had this,
Mm.
giant computer that we could play with. I don't even know if it was connected to the internet, to be honest. But I just had so fun playing around with
Yeah.
the menus and Microsoft
Mhm.
Paint, Windows Movie
Yep.
Maker. I made
Mhm.
so many little quirky videos as a kid with that. It was
Oh,
so
yeah, Movie
fun.
Maker. Movie Maker is amazing. Oh, yeah.
It is. And at some point, I found out about a program called Game Maker. And
Oh,
Game Maker,
yes.
yeah, which you may have heard of, is an application for you to build games. And at the time,
Mhm.
it was just Windows games.
Mhm.
And it almost tricked me into learning programming, right? It works by having a sort of drag and drop programming system, similar
Mhm.
to Scratch, if you've used Scratch. So you'll set
Mhm.
up your events. So like when you click the up button on the keyboard, you can say, okay, move your character up this many pixels. And so that's what kind of kickstarted my love of programming and building things for the web and for technology.
Mhm.
And it stemmed from there, right? So obviously here we are, professional web developers. We are able
Mhm.
to build stuff like MELL. I get some other things. I'm also a runner as well as Josh. Josh is much faster than me, but that's something else we like to do for fun. Like there have been a couple races where Josh and I have signed up together, and maybe we'll show up, carpool, and then essentially wave goodbye
Just
at the starting line, and I just watch Josh go off, and but we'll meet up later once I
Yeah,
finish.
man, that is absolutely amazing. And I actually want to sort of take a moment. One thing I caught is that both of y'all are y'all are front end developers, right? And so sort of jumping back even into the project, what was it like building out the back end? If you can just sort of highlight that, because as a front end engineer, I know y'all say full stack. Like for me, right? I'm a very heavy front end. I'm a full stack engineer who can do back end, right? But I know the complexities behind even building out scalable back ends. It's it inherently it's a lot, and so I'm really curious to know what was that like, just building that out and going through that entire process, right? So sort of the full stack aspects. But yeah,
Sure. When it comes to the back end for this project, you know, we we started with Angular front end because that's what we're familiar with at work.
mm-hmm,
And the way we approached it was we wanted to build a back end for the front end.
mm-hmm,
We figured, okay, the front end is our app. And so
mm-hmm,
we kind of worked from there, like what do we need to support this app?
mm-hmm,
And so the first thing we did for designing the backend was designing our database schema, right? We
mm-hmm,
figured, okay, we have communities, we have
mm-hmm,
issues, we have issue types. So
mm-hmm,
that's kind of where my mind goes first. If I'm thinking about a backend, how am I going to structure this data? And the nice thing, we use Harper for our backend.
mm-hmm,
So one of the great aspects of Harper is it will create those REST endpoints automatically right when you create the database schema. And so that was really great to get started quickly, right? We created the database and we already have some API endpoints that we can use. There were obviously more things that we needed to do, right? Like some custom resources to get other
mm-hmm,
logic like our AI. But that was kind of how we started, right? We started with the
mm-hmm.
database. Thanks to Harper, we could get API endpoints and get up and running quickly. Josh, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so something that's kind of funny thinking about when we first started this project is we kind of had like the traditional model of, okay, how are we going to build an app, right? We're going to have our front end in Angular, that's fine, and then we're going to build our back end. But we were in the mindset of, again, like this traditional application where we're going to build this back end server. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
write all our endpoints by hand, and
Mm-hmm.
we started doing that, and we started trying to do that in Harper, and we were like, how the heck, how does this work? Like Harper doesn't seem to work very well. We were like digging through the documentation,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually Colin pointed out, he's like, we're making this like way harder than we need to be. Harper does all of this for you, which is kind of what Colin was getting at, where it
Mm-hmm.
spins up all of these REST endpoints and
Yep.
other things out of the box. So once we kind of put ourselves into the right mental model of, okay, we don't need to do all of this hard work on
Yeah.
our own.
Yeah.
We can use Harper because it's doing that for us.
Mm-hmm.
It became very easy. I'm looking at the code right now, and it's funny because we
Yep.
have our front end, and it's like a bunch of files, and then we have a folder called backend, which is our backend application, and it's like two files because most of that's handled by Harper. Um, yeah, once we got ourselves into the right again
Mm-hmm.
mental model, the
Yeah.
process of building a backend became very easy, and we could really focus on at least where my skill set is. I don't want to speak for Colin, but where my primary skill set is, which is building out that front end.
Yeah, and sort of following up on that, like, what were the most enjoyable parts of building out your application? I mean, Josh, I guess I'll start with you, Josh, and then pass it off to Colin. But like, what were the most enjoyable parts? Like, what were things that like really just like stuck out to you? Like, man, like this is amazing, right? Was it the integrating AI, right? Was it just building out that really nice UI, right? Like, what was it like in particular, or feature? What?
Yeah. So I guess we kind of split up some of the work, so I can really only speak to the things I worked on.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the things that stick out, I guess, just first from the designing an application point of view, I remember when Colin and I first met and we were brainstorming ideas, we started talking about what eventually became MELL. And there was like this palpable excitement in the air as we talked about like, oh, well, what if we did this? And then, oh, like, what if we had a mascot and just all these things? That initial ideation process was a ton of fun. And then I remember like after that, Colin started like sending me pictures of what eventually became MELL the meerkat, like our mascot. And I was like, oh, I was so excited. I was like, dude, you need to keep sending me these pictures. This is awesome. So I kind of think just that like design process, that initial ideation was a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, like I've played around with like APIs for LLMs. We use Gemini in this project, so I've done a little bit with that, but I think getting more familiar with how that works and kind of building out that backend and kind of figuring out how to do that with Harper was a ton of fun. I remember when I sent the first picture and had written out my little prompt for how it's going to like analyze this image and fit it into one of our predefined categories. I was like, I don't know, like how well this will really work. Like I'm not giving it a ton of context to go off of. And it like, when I say it nailed it, I mean, it nailed it every single time. Yeah, it was incredible. So kind of like seeing that happen and having, I guess, like this proof of concept that we really could build the thing we wanted to build was also really exciting. So yeah, for me, like that's some of the stuff I worked on and that was, a really enjoyable part of designing the app.
And what about you, Colin? I'm really curious to know. I mean, it sounds like the mascot was like 10 out of 10. I mean, I also loved it. Wow. And I'm like, I like meerkats, like, so like, what, but what was it for you?
Yeah, I would agree with Josh that the initial brainstorming and ideation coming up with the roots of what our app would be was a lot of fun, getting excited about what was possible. And obviously the meerkat mascot was incredible. I had a lot of fun figuring out we used ChatGPT to get different variations of the mascot, right? Like each step in the process. If for the screen where you take a photo, it was MELL the meerkat with a camera. For figuring out where your issue was on the map, he was a pirate with a treasure map.
Yep.
So that part was really fun for me. And one of my favorite parts about software engineering in general is building incredible user experiences, right? Like the feeling of using clean, smooth, performant software is just amazing.
The best.
To me, one of the best examples of this that I can think of for a great UX is Apple Pay. When you use Apple Pay, you tap your phone to the terminal, it gives you a little haptic vibration and a little check mark and it dings, and it just feels so good. Somehow, Apple has made the process of money leaving my wallet fun. Right? Like, that's incredible. Normally something that's painful, paying is now something that I enjoy doing. Right? Not to say that I will go out of my way to spend just to use Apple Pay, but when I do, it's really fun. And so trying to get a really nice experience into our app was really cool for me, right? Like the first step of reporting an issue is giving the issue location. And so I was trying to think, how can we make this as seamless as possible? Right. So my first thought was, if you see an issue where you are, you're obviously going to want to get your current location. So figuring out how to build that with native web APIs was pretty neat. You just tap a button, it gets your current location. Awesome. And then when it comes to plotting it on a map, we had to figure out what's the best UX for changing the location on the map, right? Like the system we used for the map initially, you had to drag and drop the pin. You imagine a pin on a map. You have to use your finger to drag that pin. But what if you needed to drag it somewhere outside of the current view? Well, you would have to like zoom out, pinch to zoom out. You'd have to scroll the map and then drag the pin. And so that's like a lot of steps and it's really finicky, especially if you're on a phone. And so we looked at an app like Uber or Lyft, and the way that they handle this is the pin is always right in the center of the screen. And all you have to do as the user is just you pinch, pan, whatever the map, and it automatically follows you. And so that was cool to use that as an inspiration and get that working, like it felt so much better. So I guess to sum it up, it would be the ideas, the mascot, and creating really cool user experiences.
Nice. And I'm actually curious for the map. Did y'all end up using like OpenStreetMap, like Google Maps? Like, what'd y'all end up using actually for the maps and everything?
Yeah, we used OpenStreetMap, and the JavaScript tooling is called Leaflet, which I believe has been around for a while. Yeah, and it was really nice to use. And for that, I have never built an app that used a map like that. And so I asked my friend Claude to help come up with some initial code for, okay, how do I create a component with a map, right? And so with the help of my friend Claude, I was able to figure out how to plot a map on the screen, and it was able to help me, and I was able to make those tweaks to edit the UX, as we mentioned.
Nice. That's funny, actually. When you said my friend, I'm like, ooh, who's your friend? You said Claude. I'm like, didn't expect that. Had me for a moment. I'm like, oh man, like, wow, you have a friend who's really good with maps. I'm like, okay, please, like, let me know, because I'm having some fun just building out some, just some fun stuff that I'm doing, just with maps and everything. I'm like, oh, so there we go. I guess I have to ask my friendly friend, or my friend Claude. But yeah, and I guess like the last question that I really want to ask y'all is like, well, I guess it's sort of a 2-in-1. One is, do y'all plan on taking this further? And sort of the follow-up question to that is, like, if you do, like, what features, what improvements do you want to like, what features or improvements do you want to like do like to the application?
Yeah, I guess as far as taking it farther, it's something we discussed a little bit. But it's like one of those things, as soon as we want to monetize this, it goes from kind of a fun project to, okay, now this is a job. And I don't know that, that's exactly what we were looking for. I know we've gotten a lot of really good feedback on the project, and like people are saying like, oh, like I would definitely use this. Like you could definitely sell this, and that's great and all. But there's like a ton of work to get something like this over that line of, okay, now it's usable and can be monetized. One of those roadblocks, especially if we're working with governments, is red tape. Just a ton of compliance issues to worry about as far as how we store user data, how we're storing these locations, things like that.
Yep.
I know, like, if we were to monetize this, I know like scalability might become an issue. Actually, I think with Harper, maybe that wouldn't be as much of a concern. But that's something to think about. But yeah, I think I don't know. I definitely think it's an interesting idea. I'll say the code is all under the MIT license. So if somebody is watching this and really likes the idea and they want to go monetize it, they are more than welcome to expand upon the idea. But right now, I don't think we have any concrete plans to build upon this. But yeah, I think the other part of your comment or your question was, what features will we add? I think Colin can probably touch on a lot of those. So go ahead, Colin.
Sure.
Colin.
Yeah, I'll briefly echo what Josh said about our expansion. Like, I am not particularly interested in running a GovTech startup at this point in my life.
Yeah, I mean,
I think this is a really cool proof of concept, and potentially someone could run with it, right? But maybe not us, maybe not at this time. Now, as for what we would do to improve the application, one of the things that comes to mind for me is, in this sort of hackathon proof of concept, we have a static list of the types of issues that are reported, and every community is different, right? Like a community in small town Ohio is going to be different from, a big city in Europe. It's going to be different from somewhere in Africa, right? So all these places have different issues, right? And so it would make a lot of sense to me if every community could define their own set of issues and their own sort of like departments that these issues would be routed off to, right? And so in that way of having these types be dynamic, we can still, serve these communities as they are. And I think that might be an issue with adoption that I would see. We have this really cool app, but it doesn't quite fit our use case, right? We would want it to be something that can fit any use case. And I think that would be a really great way to get that started.
Nice. As I said, man, this is as I said, both of y'all, phenomenal job with this project. MELL is a great app. I just, again, seeing that, even for me, that's something I would use in my day-to-day, right? Especially, again, Midwest, Indiana, right? Especially after the winter months. I mean, I'm sure y'all live like in the Midwest as well too. So y'all know potholes galore, right? So like this would be something that I definitely would be using to help to help bring attention to certain parts or certain areas of like my community. And so again, both of y'all, great job. And I can't wait. Hopefully, as I said, like hopefully get to see like more of all the amazing work that y'all do or, will be doing. And yeah, like thank you for joining this podcast. And as I said, yeah, just thank you.
Of course. I appreciate that. And thank you, Austin, for having us on.
Yeah, thanks so much for
Absolutely.
having us. This was fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I hope you both have a phenomenal day. Thank you.
All right. Sweet.
All right.
See
Thanks.
ya.
See you, Austin.
See you. Bye.